Good morning, everybody. My name is Darren. I'm an alcoholic. Thank all of y'all for traveling to come visit us. We were hoping that this would be a cool little setting. We've been doing it in a park out in Estelle Manor for the last couple years. And we held our meeting at this church, and we used to do the meeting out here during the summer. And it was like, you know what, the kitchen's now usable, so why don't we give it a shot? So I like it. I do. It looks good. It looks good. So, welcome to the Speaker Jam put on by, this is our 5th annual. Home group is Fellowship of the Spirit. And the group's been together for, in this church, coming up on 4 years. Meeting's probably somewhere around 6 years old. When the group first started, it was 5 of us in a basement in Mays Landing. Me, a gentleman, Christian, who's in the crowd somewhere, and I'm not sure where everybody else is, but me and him are here. And as it started to grow, the guy's house it was, his wife was kind of like, y'all need to leave. Grow somewhere else. And so we did. And we started going around the backyards. We were at a sober house backyard, and we were in Christian and his wife's backyard. And we would alternate back and forth depending on their schedule. And then the group kind of became kind of like a healthy group, and they allowed us to stay even when they weren't there. And then they decided to sell that house and move to a different location. So this was right as the pandemic was coming, and we were going to be without a place. And God does what God do. And this church, being over 100 years old, didn't have to follow the dictates of the state for the pandemic. So we were allowed to move into this church and hold our meeting. And we were one of the only live in-person meetings for a couple years. That was quite an experience for us. It really was. And it's kind of come to a nice calming place. The basement is now finished enough, right? When we first got here, there was no heat, there was no air conditioning. We used to have fans up and down the aisle during the summer, and we had heaters and blankets that we would hand out during the winters, right? And people just kept coming. They just kept showing up. Maybe it was different faces, but a group of people started to stay around, and we now are at a place where we have a really solid home group. And I think almost all of them are here today, and I want to thank them immensely for all the work that's been put in to make this home group able and available to put on this event. Right? So that's enough about the history of us. A few housekeeping things. Most of the food, when it runs out, Wawa is a block and a half away. Right? That's what we got for you, babe. I do have a little bit more food down in the kitchen, but this is the thing, and it runs until it's over, right? There's a few little things. If you do need something special or require something, please come up to one of us, whether it be Barb or me or Renee over there or Nas in the Orioles hat, one of us, and just ask them. More than likely, we'll be able to help you with that. Be mindful, right? There's neighbors, so trash cans, let's try to keep it as clean as we possibly can, right? The bathrooms are downstairs. If you haven't had that experience yet, you go through these steps downwards, go through the kitchen. The men's will be straight ahead. The women's is caddy corner, right? You'll see little blue signs when you get close enough. It is being recorded, so if you would like the recording, you can see with this young lady over here, that's Autumn. She will be helping take down your emails, right? She's not one of us that we know of, but she likes service. It's a little early, we'll see. But she's also sitting in front of our 7 tradition, which, we obviously didn't put a charge on this, but we still try to, help alleviate some of the costs, right? So that's over there, and it's going to stay over there. So please put your email down and contribute if you can. we have an amazing lineup this year. I've been waiting for a year because we got it set up. We lined most of this up a year ago, and it was, man, it's been amazing to watch this thing become what it has become. For someone like me who's just a vodka drinking drunk, to be able to be a part of something like this in an area that has all the ingredients that you would want for some recovery, right? Sober houses everywhere, rehabs everywhere, Atlantic City. Right? And we're slowly getting some roots here. I told you that first meeting was, there was 5-6 of us. We now probably have a good 60, 65 every Wednesday. And once a month, we invite someone in from out of town, or at least not this town, to come and facilitate our big book study. Wherever we're at in the book, we go from the doctor's opinion through 164. To make my job a little easier, since I'm usually the one getting them, if that sounds like something you'd be intrigued with, come talk to me. We're booked out for a little bit because I like to get my stuff settled and set aside, man. You know what I mean? So I book out pretty far, but if you're willing, we're willing to put you on the list, and we would appreciate that greatly. We're going to say a little prayer, and then we're going to get this thing moving, man, because I'd like to sit down. All right. Anyone? Anybody want to lead us out with whatever prayer you feel? I'm going to pick. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, thank you. Our first speaker is going to be Nikoleta, who... and she came in from Summit, New Jersey. She's going to be speaking on steps 1, 2, and 3. Nikoleta, I met via Zoom, I guess, like a year ago. And as soon as she said yes to one thing, I invited her to a few more things. And because she said yes to those things, that has allowed us to develop a relationship, right? And she's an absolutely beautiful spirit. And I'm so excited that she's the one jumping this off, right? And yeah, that's enough. Nikoleta.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Hi guys, my name is Nikoleta. I'm an alcoholic. Good morning. I'm nervous. I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I'm paused by this whole thing. I feel a tremendous amount of gratitude. Part of, my mind is like, maybe I should have said no. Because Darren said I said yes. Maybe I said yes too many times. No, this is all God's power and mercy. I mean, I don't deserve any of this. And I think I'm still paused because a year ago I met some of you, and I see you on Zoom, and I look into your eyes, and I feel the power of God and connection, and then there's Brenda flying in from Texas, and I get to spend time with her, and my heart is full, and there's a lot of you in the audience that I know and I admire. The people on this lineup are my teachers and mentors. I think sometimes our tears say so much more than words. I think words just point, and I want to be a wordsmith, and I want to give it respect that it deserves this experience that we get to have, this awakening that just is not of my own doing. This sense of connection and belonging and aliveness that I get to enjoy and have and be a part of as a result of being an alcoholic. And 18 years ago on this day, I tried to commit suicide and had my last drink. So it's a really steps 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I'm just going to tell my story because that's really what happened. I would say that I'm going to try to take up an hour telling you what happened in 5 seconds 18 years ago. Because 18 years ago, in 5 seconds, or what felt like a second, I experienced steps 1, 2, and 3. And it took me years to understand that that's what occurred. That was the gift. That was grace. And I didn't know that that's what happened. And I didn't have the words for it. But it paused me. It paused me, and it created this byproduct of being surrendered, which was willingness to step into the unknown and to become a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and give my will and my life over to the treatment center first, and then a halfway house, and then a sober house, and then a woman that was in front of me, and then to you guys as well. Because I didn't know how to run my life, and I just didn't trust myself. And all of that happened in a split second 18 years ago on this day. My sober date is September 15, 2006, but this experience that I had, it was under the influence of alcohol as I tried to commit suicide on September 14, 2006. And the power of God goes deep. But, I was born in an alcoholic country over the ocean. You're not to be trusted unless you drink. My first exposure to alcoholism was my father, and my mom's anger about it. and that brought up a lot of curiosity in me about booze, because it was evident that it was important to Dad, and that it upset Mom. And, so I heard some stories, and was warned about it in the family, because my grandmother was only 50 years old when she died with a bottle in her hand, and they used to always say, you're just like her. And I didn't really know what that meant, but today I get a sense of that. But that's not why I'm an alcoholic. But my first exposure to it was just the curiosity of my dad's drinking, and I had an experience watching him drink. I did have an experience. I watched the ease and effect produced by alcohol. When he drank, he was just a little bit more approachable. He would play with me. He was at ease. He was lighter. And when my mom wasn't letting him drink, he was tight. He was tight. The book calls it restless, irritable, and discontent. I could feel the frustration. I could feel him just not being easily annoyed, unable to really play with me, lack of patience, lack of tolerance. Like he was just not at ease, and that created a lot of curiosity as a child, because it was evident that it was something that was important to him, and I missed my dad. I craved a connection with him. I craved that we played, and that he'd take an interest in me, and so I put that somewhere in the back of my head, and then, I remember the very first memory involved alcohol, and it involved this experience, because, alcohol is just a symptom. That's my medicine. That's what I took to relieve myself of alcoholism, but this experience, this internal climate, internal temperature that was building from the moment I could think. From a very first memory. I walked into the bedroom. I walked into the living room. Mom was upset. It was dark. It was tight. I could feel the fear in the air. And she was throwing a clog at Dad. The clog was flying. Then Dad was flying. Then the bottles were flying. And that's the very first memory of my childhood. I was probably around five years old. And I remember the clinking of the bottles. And I don't remember any words. I just have this flash. I have this flash of tension. But I remember the experience in the body was like, life is not safe. Life is not safe. This is tough. I don't know how to move around this. I was on edge already. And this is at the age of 5, right? And the mind started spinning, immediately creating stories. And I just would rather live in the fantasy of my head than in the reality of my home. I did a lot of things to escape what felt like an invalidating environment and an unsafe environment that was tight. From imaginary friends to picking my nose to twisting my hair to having different kinds of restlessness that I had suiting mechanisms and things like that. Then I discovered books and movies, and I would just get lost in them because I would rather be in anybody else's story than my own. None of that makes me an alcoholic. I have a sister. She's not an alcoholic. She grew up in the same home. But I was processing these things, and these things were piling up deep inside of me. And the book clearly talks about like letting go of old ideas, and I need to take a look at my old ideas that were developed ever since I could start thinking, really. Because they shape the way that I relate to the world and the people around me, and to myself. And at the age of 14, we came to New York City for a vacation, but the vacation is still going on. It's 31 years later. I'm still on vacation in America. God had other plans, really. I mean, we came for a vacation, and a week later we were homeless. I'm not going to get into that, but we were homeless in Christmas time in 1993 in New York City. Me, my mom, and my sister, and I was 14 years old. My sister was 18 years old. My mom was in her 40s. And, we buckled up and pursued the American dream and worked very hard as illegal immigrants, having multiple jobs and just trying to succeed and trying to have a place to live. And it was a couple of years of real hardship, which was an important part of my story because I think that shaped more ideas on my reliance on my mind. And that if I apply myself hard enough, or that my mind can give me the answer to the problems, because when you're like homeless and hungry and squatting in abandoned buildings, and you get out of that situation, you feel like you can achieve, and you feel like you can do anything, and you feel like you can overcome anything. And that's kind of along the lines of what happened. Like I was the girl that was looking for pennies on the streets of New York City because I was missing 17 cents to buy bread. Like that was me, watching out for the cops not to see me walk into an abandoned building, so that we don't get arrested or deported and things like that. So you have experiences like that, and you get through experiences like that, and you feel like you can get through anything, right? There was a sense that if I set my mind to it, that I can accomplish anything. And I did set my mind to certain things, and I did accomplish quite a few things. At the age of 16, I was living alone, and the moment that I started living alone and supporting myself, which is another thing that made me feel like I had arrived. And I remember in Bill's story, he talks about I had arrived, like, why not me? Like, I got this. There was this sense of, like, I can do this, I started living alone, and one of the jobs I had was in a restaurant which gave me access to booze. And that curiosity about why Dad loved to drink so much was like very much present. And I gave myself permission to get a bottle, bring it home, and drink it. And I was 16 years old. I had no one to answer to. I was fully supporting myself, which was wonderful for me because, by the time I was 27, I was committing suicide. So my step one experience lasted about a decade. I'll never forget falling in love at that first gulp. Never. I'll never forget that experience. That was an experience. I had an experience. And it was love at first gulp. And I don't remember much of that night, but immediately I drank differently than normal people. My relationship to that bottle was different. I drank from the bottle. I drank until I could no longer remember. I drank by myself. I was already on the floor of my apartment. And there was a intent to do that again. Like there was a looking forward to, because I could breathe, right? So the alcoholism that I was already suffering from internally, that internal climate was suddenly adjusted. It was like the pieces of the puzzle inside of me fit somehow. And I didn't understand how, but when I drank that bottle, I felt that okay, I got this. I can meet life. Maybe life is not as scary. I can do this. You know, there was this sense of power, and I was empowered. That was the sense. I was empowered to meet life, which was scary, which was difficult, which was overwhelming, which seemed painful, which for which I didn't get a manual on how to live. And I'll never forget that. And that's where my relationship with booze really starts. It was a love affair. I fell in love with the bottle. I really did. And I didn't understand the dance that I was going to go on for the next decade. I really didn't understand that. I was 16 years old. I was a valedictorian of high school. I graduated high school in 2 years. I got accepted into 30 universities. I toured Harvard and looked at scholarships that were being offered to me. I had a poem published by a university while I was in high school. I had all these achievements. I had teachers that wanted to adopt me. I mean, talk about the power of mind. And I was utilizing the mind and intelligence to get all these accolades. And if I received all this attention and all this success academically, I felt a sense of belonging or importance in the world, right? That was my ticket. That was my ticket to be a part of. You know, it was fleeting, and it was tiring. But I thought everybody pretended. And alcohol was eventually became a necessity. I really didn't understand. And I remember having these feelings of my mom talking to me about my dad's alcoholism. I'll never forget her telling me, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. And I would argue with her about that because I really believed in the power of choice, including that if I wanted to be self-destructive or drink because it's my life, and how could you have better interest in my life than me? How could you want better for my life than me? Why can't I make these decisions? These are my decisions, And then I just drank. I drank and I enjoyed it for quite a few years. It helped me achieve more things, including a 6-figure salary at a young age, which supported all of my insanity and all of my excuses. Eventually, the drinking caught up to my thinking. I like how Bill says that in the story. And it went from just kind of I had this sense. I remember even when I was drinking, and I would say the consequences weren't as prevalent yet or as evident. I just had this sense that my relationship with booze was not very healthy. There was a sense that it wasn't the same as the ones that were drinking around me. I felt that it was more important to me than to the people around me. And that just the way that I drank was different, but I didn't understand the physical craving. We talk about alcoholism. Why do I say I'm an alcoholic? What am I saying when I say I'm an alcoholic? What does that really mean? Am I saying it because a few therapists told me that, or people that love me told me that, or what is it that I'm saying when I label myself as an alcoholic? And the book spends pages and pages and pages to tell me that the one thing that qualifies me as an alcoholic above anything else, and that all alcoholics have it in common, is the physical craving. The phenomenon of craving. And I cannot diagnose myself without looking at my experience. What is my experience with that? And that experience has happened over and over and over and over and over and over again, because it's so confusing and so baffling that even though I just wanted to have a happy hour, and even though I just wanted to take the edge off, and even though I just wanted to drink with my coworkers, that I would close the bar over and over and over again, that the thirst would take over, that there was some sort of a thirst that would take over. I would get thirsty for more. Why would I always get thirsty for more? It was so crazy to me. That was the baffling feature of alcoholism, of just phenomenon of craving, that I would pick it up over and over again, even when I didn't want to. To make up for that, I would... because the mind doesn't want to give up the false sense of power, I would excuse myself for, I needed it, I wanted it, I just took it a little bit too far, it doesn't matter, And that would be also very much a story that would go on over and over again. I defended my right to drink. You know? And any alcoholic knows what I'm talking about. I wanted to just, I couldn't imagine not being able to have that in my life. It was too important. It became a primary relationship in my life, and all other relationships became secondary eventually, even though I couldn't see that, but eventually that showed. And, you know, I feel overwhelmed with emotion. I'm sorry. I really didn't think I could find anything that made me feel the way Boost did. The insidious insanity of like convincing myself that I could drink normally. It was so prevalent. I was grieving at just the thought of not having it in my life. I didn't have a sufficient substitute, and I tried to substitute it by relationships, with money, with accolades, with success, with things, with travels, with experiences, with friendships. And it just didn't do it. It didn't hit me at the deepest level the way that Boost did, for whatever reason. And I didn't want to admit it, because I felt that it was a weakness. And I think it's really important for us to go into the emotional memory of our drinking. And I'm not talking about the good times, because the not very good times lasted for quite a long time. Quite a long time. Because I don't want to see what I don't want to see, even when it's in front of me. You know? And this is like step one stuff, right? This is like, it talks about like, right, this restlessness, irritability, and discontent, this is internal, like this disconnect, this like internal climate and temperature, this inability to like really feel a part of and be at ease and feel lighter and walk through life in an effortless way is really not present, because I'm so caught up in the mind, in the stories in the mind, and they tend not to be positive. You know, I don't really live life in the present moment. I live my interpretation of life, and my interpretation of life has not been very positive. Right? Life is scary, and life is difficult, and life is unmanageable, and I don't want you to see my weaknesses, and I think you're not trustworthy, and everybody's playing a game, and everybody wants something from you, and what's in it for me, and what's next moment going to look like, and you know, self-manifested in various ways is what defeats me, and I drink to relieve myself of self. The wheels of my mind would stop spinning when I would drink. I would actually be in the present moment. That's why it was so priceless. That's why I looked forward to it all the time. That's why I wanted that moment of reprieve. That was my reprieve from self, because I was so caught up in the mind. I thought I was the mind. There was no distance between me and the mental thought. There was no questioning of the mental thought. Is that really true? None of it. I was so wrapped up. And the book clearly tells me that alcoholism comes inside of me. It's not in the bottle. The bottle is just a symptom. The bottle is my solution. It is my medicine. What does it do? The wheels of my mind stop spinning. I have a pause. It puts me in a pause. It creates stillness. It creates reprieve. I can't find that any other time, because I keep relying on self. I keep relying on the mind. Nobody taught me that I can't. My mind was praised to be intelligent, to know what it's looking at, that I have my best interest at heart. I couldn't comprehend that I can't see things the way they are, that I can't see true from the false, that I can't see reality. I never questioned myself. And this is all like this step one experience that I had on September 14, 2006. But everything that stood in the way of me seeing the truth had to be taken away. We have to be pretty badly mangled up. Alcohol is the great persuader. It beat me into a state of reasonableness. All of my old ideas were smashed on September 14, 2006. I didn't need to do steps 1, 2, and 3. They were done through me. I don't rely on infinite power. I see how relying on finite power is a losing game. I don't know the answer. I know that I can't control and manage my drinking because I failed. This is a path of failure. This is not a path of self-improvement and doing things and doing homeworks and checking off boxes of step work. It's in the experience. It's in my experience. I mean, I had a religious experience when I was 12 years old. I would get lost in movies and books. Really lost. I would literally be rather in anybody else's story than my own. I would lose track of time and space and and bus stops and school and you name it. Get lost in my own neighborhood because I'm reading a book. And but when I was 12, I watched, and I was not brought up in a religious home by any means, and I would not say that I am religious. I would not label myself as that. But I watched the Jesus movie on Easter Sunday for the first time in my life at the age of 11 or 12. And I was so touched. I had a heart opening. I was just so hit. I was hit. But there was no one to validate the experience for me. Literally I cried for 3 days. Curled up in a fetal position wanting to become a nun. Just in love with this guy who I was just blown away. Had no idea what was happening. Completely pushed aside this experience because the next day with the corner kids on the block, I sniffed glue for the first time and I was just stupid for 3 days. And then I discovered cigarettes and then I was oh yeah, this is real life. You know what I mean? And I just pushed aside that experience and it's we have the experience. I can't have any other experience than the one that's given to me. I'm given the perfect life to have this awakening. And I always think that yours is better than mine. And always think that I'm missing a lesson. Or that you have a more powerful step one experience. It's there. It's there. I couldn't stop drinking and I wouldn't admit it. That's all that was happening. Nothing else was happening. I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that. I'm going to go to therapy. I went to therapy. I paid him top dollar to drink in his bathroom while lying to him and telling him all of my resentments, only the first 2 columns, which the bartender knew and you know what I mean? Because I had no other ability to see it from another angle and I wasn't connected to the heart. That was a too painful place to go. No. I thought I just got to figure this out. And I do that with 18 years sober. I got to figure this out. I experienced step one over and over again at 18 years sober all the time. I'm a work in progress. The mind comes in this morning and I have nothing to say. And Brenda, I'm afraid and I'm insecure. And Jack and Cleo, I shouldn't be up there. Somebody made a mistake. This is what my mind says at 18 years sober. I'm an alcoholic. But I can sit here and tell you that I trust God. Well, this is God. Me being up here. Life said that Darren's going to invite me and I was going to say yes and I was going to be up here. Who am I to argue with that? But I argued with everything. And because I argued and I was in conflict with reality all the time, I needed relief. Relief from the way I perceived that, not from life. There's nothing wrong with life. Life is life. My perception of life is what needs relief. That's where the change is. I needed to be changed. I needed to be changed deeply. Because I was on self-destructive. And so I made a lot of efforts to control and manage my drinking and my thinking and my life, and I kept failing and experiencing a lot of consequences as a result of my drinking. I turned 27 in rehab, so I was 26 years old, just shy of 27. And I was having alcoholic seizures publicly on the streets of New York City. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. I was a bookkeeper for a multi-million-dollar company in Manhattan, and I was sending messengers out to buy me booze because I didn't understand the phenomenon of craving. I would go for lunch. I would have a couple to take the edge off. Life's too tough. Life's hard. And, and I can't stand the coworkers, and I'm pissed at my boss, and I have all these resentments that are twirling around, and I don't know how to move, and I'm always, thinking about the next step, and of course, who wouldn't want relief from that? And, but I didn't understand the phenomenon of craving, and I would go back to the office, and I would get thirsty. I would get thirsty. I want some more. So I would send messengers out to buy me bottles. I wasn't working for a liquor company. You can't drink, alcohol at a 9-to-5 job on 57th Street and Madison Avenue. It was inappropriate. And because some part of me knew that wasn't sane, I needed someone to blame. By the way, because we know it's off. What knows it's off? What part of me knows that it's off? We come in here and we, argue the existence of God and what the book talks about. But what part of you knew that was off? That wasn't in the mind? What part of me resonates with the truth? Can I get information from some other place than the mind? What does that look like when I'm really, really honest? So, vision for you. I'm unemployed for 6 months already. I'm having alcoholic seizures. I don't know what's really happening. I am completely unapproachable. I'm unavailable. I have no relationships in my life. Everything in the house is turned off. I have an eviction notice on the door for the 3rd time. I can't get the mail. I can't open the mail. I can't leave my apartment. I can't leave the floor of my apartment. I am constantly under the influence. Booze is not really even working anymore. I just can't get checked out enough. And what's happening is also that all these other physical and all other consequences are too much in my face, right? I get a second of reprieve with some booze, and then it's vomiting, stomach lining, and forgetting times and dates and spaces, and not dating, and not all of that stuff, right? It just becomes too much. And on September 14, 2006, I needed a drink. When I came to on the floor of my apartment, and I was broke. I scrounged up 99 pennies on the floor of my apartment. So I looked through the apartment. I think I came to with a cockroach on my nose. It was ugly. It was ugly. I didn't come to AA because I just drank a little too much. Man, it was so dirty. It was so ugly. I was so ugly. Everything was so ugly. And I scrounged up 99 pennies, and I went to a bodega across the street from the apartment where I lived, and I just remember the look on his face. And I think that the message gets transmitted in other ways than just words. That man at the bodega transmitted a message to me. I saw something in me resonated with him looking at me as though I was a bum. And me knowing that for the 13 years I've lived in this apartment and utilized this bodega in the city, that he was always a bum. They were the bums of my neighborhood. And I saw the look that he projected back on me. And I just remember noticing it. Just something in me noticed. And that was the beginning of the end, because I tried to get some booze from my neighbor, but, he knew better. And then I had this experience 18 years ago on the floor of my apartment that I've been honoring ever since, that I didn't deserve, I didn't earn, I didn't do anything to get to it except successfully failed at all of my ways of controlling and managing my drinking and thinking that I have the power and thinking that I have the choice and thinking I can do something about it. But meanwhile, what I was having is an experience of not wanting to drink and drinking. I drank when I didn't want to drink. I drank when I had every reason not to drink. I drank even though I had tons of consequences. I drank when I didn't want to drink. What could be more powerless? Anybody here in this audience drank when they didn't want to drink? Raise your hand. What an example. We all have it. You got it. You got the example. Doesn't get more of an example than that. To me, that example is everything. My ability to see and feel it, that's the switch. And I was obviously dying. And a couple of things happened. I said I can't stop drinking. And that's it. For the first time. For the first time I said I can't stop drinking. I didn't say I can't stop drinking, I'm going to try this and that, but there's someone to blame, but I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to call up somebody, I'm going to, move here, move there, switch this, switch that, It was just this clear recognition I can't stop drinking. And I think step one tells us that. As a matter of fact, step one tells me, I will drink. I will drink. Not that I shouldn't drink, I can't drink, it's not a good idea for me. I will drink. That's a predicament. That is the bad news. That's the bad news. Like, I'm screwed. Doesn't matter what I want. Doesn't matter what the people who love me want. It doesn't matter what's moral or just or right or how I grew up. It doesn't matter. I will pick it up. I always pick it up. And I have no power not to pick it up. That's quite a news. And the recognition of that is scary. And I think that there was a combination of that, and there was a combination of, I can't do this anymore, which I now recognize is a prayer. It wasn't a prayer where I was necessarily on my knees, although I was on the floor of the apartment. But I was humble in my heart. Like, I was on my knees in my heart. Like, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I don't know what else to do. Like, I'm done fighting. I was done fighting. And something in me wanted to live more than it wanted to die. And I thought of that neighbor. And I borrowed a quarter. And I called my sister and I asked for help. And that was September 14, 2006, under the influence of alcohol. What happened that night was there was a pause. There was like a manipulated pause. It felt like time stopped. The girl that couldn't draw sober breath for a very, very long time. I didn't know this at the time, but the mental obsession was removed. Like hope entered my life in that split second. I don't know from where and I don't know how. It was elusive, like I couldn't grab it and I couldn't verbalize it. I knew two things. I can't trust myself. I can't trust myself. And I need help. And I know I'm going to drink, no matter what. I can't control this. I can't do anything about it. I need help. And I went to treatment. I gave my will and my life over to a care of a treatment center. And I felt safe. You know, my solution to alcoholism is to end my life, besides the millions of solutions to alcoholism that I had up until that point, moving to California, you know. Yeah, no, somebody doesn't like California. Okay. You know, switching jobs and partners and all that stuff, all the stuff that we do to get a sense that I'm in control of life and that I know how to live it and that I can manage it and stuff like that. And I remember sitting in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous under the influence of alcohol in Manhattan, in New York City. I don't even know how I ended up there. Oh, my coworker brought me to my first meeting of AA. I had whiskey in my Snapple bottle. Of course, I was late. It was a miracle that I even made it. And he got sober after a night of partying with me. I got sober 3 years later. Maybe as wild as Cleo. Although she has the best story. I mean, I just imagine her on the hood of a car with a bottle, naked, trying to smash a windshield, and I'm just like, yeah, it's my girl. But the good news is that it's in that hopelessness, in that absolute hopelessness, that somehow hope enters, right? And the good news is that you have paved the road for me. Because I couldn't deny that people were sitting in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous who were sober, and I wasn't, and you were sober for longer than me. I didn't pay attention to the ones with a lot of time, but somebody with 30 days was my God. You were like God or goddess. You were like the impossibility. You were a miracle, or you did not drink like me. Like, it was impossible to have 30 days sober. That was unbelievable. It was beyond something that the mind could comprehend. My mind could not comprehend something like that, but I couldn't deny that you were sitting in front of me. And that's what happened in treatment. As I sat in treatment, completely lost, completely confused, like a deer in headlights, not really understanding any of the lingo that they were talking about, not having any reference point. Big book, they told me to read it. I did. It was Japanese to me. Like, who speaks like this? Like, I don't know anybody that speaks like this. I don't speak like this, rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence and all that stuff. And the funny thing is, like, because I was so reliant on my mind and on my intelligence, I, like, wrote a thesis proving that there is no God. So I could, like, debate and be, like, one of those argumentative people about, like, something you can't see, that you can't prove, that it does not exist. And, but when dying, I was dying. I felt dead. Yeah. Suicide was actually welcome in that condition. But something in me wanted to live more than it wanted to die. And I felt safe in a lockdown treatment. And didn't want to leave it because I knew that I couldn't drink there. I was in a mountain in Pennsylvania, with nothing around. And I was scared. I was very, very scared. And you guys gave me hope. And I did that for about 4 months until they said I got to go. And so at some point I had to go. And here's how lucky I am. After 4 months of treatment, reading all of your literature, not understanding any of it, sitting at your meetings and recognizing that you had sober time and some of you were happy and not knowing how, but being curious about it, and you left like snippets of curiosity in me to get to know Alcoholics Anonymous and the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, and to maybe look more into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and read it, even though I didn't understand it. I ended up in a sober house in New Jersey, and I met my sponsor 2 days later, and she's my sponsor to this day. And her name is Lena, and she just blasted me with this hope. I looked at her, and she was free. I experienced the same thing that Bill talks about when he sees Abby. Like, there was something about her. She was fresh-skinned and glowing, right? There was something about her eyes. Like, I could feel humility and confidence at the same time. She was a changed person. She exuded freedom. I didn't just want relief. I wanted freedom, from the predicament that I was in. The greatest thing is, she said, we're going to have this journey through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're going to have an experience with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she's guided me ever since. And I gave my will and my life over to care of her. But in reflection, especially when she qualified me on step 1, and we talked about the mental obsession, and we talked about the physical craving, and what does that look like in my experience, and this experience of restlessness, irritability, and discontent, and my relationship with alcohol, and what happens when I drink, and what happens after I drink, and what happens before I pick up a drink that I said that I wasn't going to pick up that day. Because that was also really important. This whole dance This whole constant, I'm in control of my life and I can make my own decisions when it comes to this thing, and then having these experiences that show otherwise. That was very, very important. It was very important for me to go into the emotional memory of my relationship with booze. What's your relationship with booze? Because that is not my sister's relationship with booze. She doesn't even notice the thing in front of her. She doesn't even care to have the second sip. She really doesn't. And I remember Lena asking me, why don't you ask your mom and your sister what they experience when they drink? It was completely different. They get nauseous, they get sleepy, they get tired, they get a little bit buzzed, and they don't feel like having any more. That is not the experience I have when I drink. It is not. I remember one of my favorite speakers says, I'll hit a bottom. Well, I would be drinking so much that I would hit these bottoms and I would furnish it and invite you over. I would normalize all of these things. I would normalize it. And I knew something was working in the lives of you. I without you, you guys were the example. The book can say all it wants to a newcomer. You guys can share a lot of things in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous to a newcomer. I didn't understand anything you were talking about, but I couldn't deny the fact that you were sitting in front of me sober. I just couldn't deny that. You had more time than me, and some of you were really, really happy. And so for me, step 2 was really stepping into the unknown. It was stepping into the unknown world of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was stepping into the unknown experience of studying and reading the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and what it was pointing to. That's really what it was. It was that simple. And step 3 was a decision to have a relationship with this, with you, with this book, with this power that's operating in my life that was present on September 14, 2006, that despite my own efforts that I was still alive, despite my own. And I didn't choose the treatment. Everything happened for me. Everything, in those 4 months that I was in treatment, everything got taken care of for me. I didn't have any play in that. There was a perfect experience that something was at play. That some power was doing for me what I could not do for myself. I didn't understand this power. I couldn't define this power. I couldn't verbalize this power, but I could sense that something was at play. And that was sufficient. That was sufficient. And I remember Lena telling me that. You don't need to define it. You don't need to verbalize it. You don't need to know it. She gave me so much freedom to have a relationship with the unknown that I didn't think I could have. That was so beautiful. She said, it's okay not to know it. Would you want that power to fit into your mind? No. I want it to be bigger than that. Undefinable. That's power. And we reflected, and I reflected on all these moments in life that were filled with mystery and awe. That childlike faith, those moments started coming back up. There was a willingness, but there was a willingness only because of the step 1 experience. I'm the luckiest girl in the world because I had the most horrendous step 1 experience that took care of everything else. The byproduct of step 1 experience is willingness. I'm not willing. I am not willing. I am not grateful. I am not humble. A byproduct of a step 1 experience is gratitude, humility, willingness, silence, openness, curiosity. The book talks about the only thing that I need to be is willing, open-minded, right? And honest. Those things were present because I saw how much trouble I was in. Because I saw that I couldn't do anything about it. Because I saw that I failed at all of my ways of controlling and managing it. Because I was surrendered. I don't surrender. I get surrendered. And that was really great. And I remember just starting to say prayers in the book, and the third step prayer. And something in me resonated with the third step prayer because of the experience that I had. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. And I remember saying that, relieve me of the bondage of self. And I would just get such a strong hit. Like I could relate to that so much. Like I knew this bondage to self. So that I may better do your will. Couldn't comprehend that. Not yet. Take away my difficulties. Love that. Because I had a lot of difficulties in early recovery. So that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. Didn't understand. That sounded really good. Made no sense to the mind. But as I got to work with Lena, I really understand. I really understood everything that the book talked about, the second and the third step, as I wrote my inventory. As I saw the hideousness of my life ran on self-will. And as I saw how successfully I failed at managing my life, and that the truth is I can't manage my life. Life is not manageable. I can't manage the unmanageable. It can't be managed. I don't even know what the next thought will be in my head. I don't know what tonight brings. I don't know what the next moment brings. I don't know what tomorrow brings. That's such uncertainty for the mind. That's such a lack of security for the mind that wants to know and wants to know the next move. Right? It's constantly strategizing and playing chess with life. And I keep getting checkmated, and bottle was such a tangible example of powerlessness. That was the first and most tangible example of powerlessness in life that I actually have. That manifests itself in all areas of my life. I mean, I don't even know what the next thought will be in my head. I don't. Yeah, I remember when my sponsor said, who are you if you don't think yourself into existence? And there was silence on the payphone, because I was using the payphone in the overhead. This is a good one. I remember with the second step, we were reading the big book and stuff like that, and I had these like doubts, right, that I could have a relationship with this power, that this power wants to know me, that it wants to work in my life, that it will work in my life. And I remember just, at least a couple of days having these thoughts, but not wanting to tell my sponsor because I might disappoint her or fail as a sponsor or something. I might get a bad grade or something like that. But then it became just so much that I just had to share it with her. So I used the payphone to call her and tell her that I had doubt. I had doubt about this power being involved in my life and wanting the best for me. And she paused for a second, and then she said, doubt. And just my mind just went into it exploded. If I was a cartoon, you would literally see boom, pause, silence, what, doubt. You can't even think about it. It's just something that pauses you. And I started having these experiences of and I knew this. I had this experience with that step one experience, right? I just can't trust myself. I just can't see things the way they are. The way I relate to life and the way I view life is just not necessarily the way life is. Right? This is the same mind that convinced me over and over again that I can drink like a lady. Even though I had never had an experience of drinking like a lady. That I could just drink for a happy hour, even though I never had an experience of just drinking for a happy hour. Right? This is the same mind. This is the mind that was coming into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and reading the book. This was the mind that was verbalizing to me the relationship with the sponsor. This is the mind that was looking at the third step, and that's why it made no sense to this mind. And I had to start utilizing some other place rather than the mind. And she told me, the best thing she's ever told me is that you're going to sit quietly. From the day she met me, she said, starting today, you're going to sit quietly for 2 minutes. Horrible. I couldn't survive 30 seconds. I was cheating. I mean, to sit quietly for 2 minutes, do you know how long that is?
Do you know how long 2 minutes is for a newcomer? It's an eternity. It's an eternity. But what she was doing is she was pointing me to some other place in the mind. That's what she was doing. She wanted me to get information from some other place. She wanted me to see this power that I could have a relationship with. I can see this power in any way I wanted to see it, as long as it relaxed the mind. What relaxed the mind? And I knew that life was a power that's greater than me, and I knew that love was a power that's greater than me, and that I knew that truth was a power that was greater than me. And the book so beautifully talks about that it's deep down within each one of us. That deep down within us, there's a space that knows God, that is of God, that's connected to God. What would it look like if I utilized that place, if I gave my attention and intention to that place? That place trusts what's in front of it. That place trusted the sponsor that was in front of me. That place trusted the moment that I was in. That place could stay in the day-to-day. And here we are 18 years later. And I'm just like, where did 18 years go? I mean, don't get me wrong. I can't recognize the girl from 18 years ago, but there's a part of me that's like, how did 18 years pass? Like, what the hell? It just seems like too much. 18 seems to me, I'm still shocked. I'm still amazed. But you guys taught me that it's to take it one day at a time. I love that one day at a time, that in this moment, what's in front of me, what would my life look like if I trusted that? What would my life look like if I trusted what's in front of me? Whatever lands in front of me. And I hope you liked it. Thank you for letting me share.